Now let's get some insight into the latest fight over face coverings and discuss some of the other campus-related hot topics making headlines in tonight's lightning round. Joining me now is former press secretary for the Department of Education, Angela Morabito. Angela, great to have you on. We spoke with Dr. Marty McCary a bit earlier about the masks, but I want to play what he said earlier on Fox about the vaccines and then get your response on the other side. Listen.
We've really converted from being pro-vaccine to vaccine fanaticism, and what we've seen with the CDC is they misrepresented data on adolescent hospitalizations.
CDC twisting the data, and now you look at Atlanta and they are re-implementing mask mandates for students. What do you take away from this?
I'm so struck by the argument that these New Jersey students and parents are making in their lawsuit, because it's totally new. They're saying we have the right to speak to each other without the impediment of a mask. This is something that is totally based in rights. It doesn't have a ton to do with the science, but look at what the science does tell us. Kids are at very little risk of contracting this virus. When they do get it, it's relatively mild. If you're an adult like me, you can go get the shot, do exactly what I did. And if you're a student or someone who cannot get the shot for any reason, you're still more than welcome to wear a mask. This is just about the right not to. So we're about to find out through the New Jersey court if my body, my choice is for real or if it just applies to that one thing.
Yeah, especially when you have school districts saying, well, we don't want the kids who are vaccinated to be different from the kids who are not vaccinated, so everybody's going to wear a mask. You think, okay, well, now let's move on to the older students, because the president of Purdue University, Mitch Daniels, said this, quoting now, "Here at Purdue, we have offered a choice model. People can either choose to stay with the system we used all last year, where all of us were subject to surveillance testing on a regular basis, or they can exempt themselves by getting vaccinated. So either you get vaccinated or you get tested every few days, and who knows, in a couple of weeks, you might have to do both," Angela.
I think the choice model is an interesting path forward for Purdue. And when you look at this in contrast to what's going on at Indiana University Bloomington, the difference just couldn't be more stark. Campus reform has been following this lawsuit brought by Indiana University students, not terribly unlike the one in New Jersey, where they're saying, hey, I shouldn't be forced to put a vaccine in my body if I'm not completely comfortable with it. And, you know, it's fully possible to be pro-vaccine and anti-mandate. That's where I am. We're a country that's based on individual rights. And we're starting to see students say that they want to take that responsibility. They want to go get that shot to protect themselves and the people around them. But as soon as they feel like it's forced on them, they say, hey, why does my school have a vote here? This is my personal medical decision. And it almost takes away some of the motivation they have to do the right thing.
Yeah, I want to move topics now. We've got, we talk about the Cleveland Indians are now the Cleveland Guardians. They are changing school names across the country at breakneck speed. And yet a Fidel Castro quote at Penn State is, you can't take it down, because the Black Caucus said this, quoting, "The university concluded to remove the quote for not aligning with university values. While we understand the unrest in Cuba right now, the conduct of the situation reveals the hypocrisy of university administration and a lack of support for students of color at Penn State." So the Fidel Castro quote goes on.
It's so typical, Trace. Anytime these campus progressives get called out for doing something wrong, like lifting up the words of a murderous dictator who has no business being around the classroom or around students, they cry racism. They say, oh, well, the people who complained were the wrong color. Well, first of all, right and wrong doesn't work that way. Right is right no matter who's behind it. And second of all, that totally erases the contribution of the Venezuelan student who actually first flagged this and spoke with campus reform and said, hey, wait a second, Fidel Castro is not a model. He's a cautionary tale. This is a symptom of a bigger problem, and it's that support for socialism comes from ignorance, and ignorance of what socialism really is happening all the time on college campuses. And campus reform has reported on professors at multiple schools that, they say that these things are okay when that's totally false.
And you would think a student from Venezuela would have a little bit more context and perspective than some others. I got 10 seconds if I can get you quickly. The idea of giving financial benefits to some of the DACAs, the Dreamer students, quickly.
This is about to come up for consideration in the House of Representatives.
Yep.
Total watershed moment for the future of how we pay for college. This will create an incentive if DACA students are allowed to access federal financial aid and free community college, another thing on the Democrat wish list. This is going to make the border crisis worse because it sets up an incentive to come here illegally.
Right.
All the while, the Americans who pay for this are struggling to pay for college themselves.
And you said the House is in favor of it. Well, now you have Senator Dick Durbin coming out saying, yep, I think it's a pretty good idea. Angela Morabito, great to have you on tonight. Thank you.